How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Outland from 1981. This movie is directed by Peter Hyames, and it stars Sean Connery. So yeah, I first heard about this movie. I was flipping through YouTube. There's a YouTube channel called Alien Theory, and they made a video about this movie. And basically what they said in the introduction of this video was that this was a space movie, and it was produced by one of the producers that had done stuff for Blade Runner and Alien, and they said it had a very similar aesthetic to Alien, which that in and of itself had enough to have me curious. So I went ahead and paused the video so I wouldn't get any spoilers, and I ran out to the used movies shop and found this for $3.99. So $4. I'll go ahead and watch it and take a look, and really, you have me hooked saying it's a similar aesthetic to Alien. Let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about this movie. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the plot. I'm not going to do any major spoilers, but I do I want to say my piece on a few plot points, and I want you guys to have a basic understanding as to what this movie's about, but no major spoilers. This movie takes place on Jupiter's moon, Io, and there's a company there, the Con-Am 27, and they're mining titanium in this really cool big moon base they got going there. Really cool place. You see the Alien references right away, but there's something going on with the workers. You open up with this one guy, he's in his spacesuit, they're out there doing some work, when he suddenly feels like he has spiders crawling on his skin under his suit, and in his panic trying to get them off, pulls out the cord for his oxygen, and his face swells up and explodes inside his spacesuit. It's pretty nasty stuff. You also get this other guy who they're in their locker room putting their spacesuits on, and then rather than doing that, he just walks right to the elevator without putting on his spacesuit, and the elevator slowly moves, and you see all these timers, and the door finally opens up, and you see a bloody mess on the floor, because, yeah, vacuum of space will pull you apart. It's some pretty gnarly stuff. Well, luckily for the men, they have good old Sean Connery there. Sean Connery is just transferred to this job. You see, people do year-long stints on this planet and then they trade out. So he's there at the beginning of his year. He's the new marshal. He's replacing the old guy, and he sees the first death. He's like, oh, that's really bad. The second one comes around, he's like, wait a minute, this is getting a little crazy. And he starts to investigate, and he starts to dig. When everyone's saying, keep your head down, he looks at the records and finds that the deaths, they did happen on this planet, but there's a spike in them about a year ago. And he's like, okay, these seem to be people snapping, going nuts, and they seem to be at fault for their own death, but this spike is suspicious. Why did people suddenly start dying? And he begins to dig and uncover things that are going to make some people really upset. It's kind of got a conspiracy element to it, and as he begins to dig deeper, certain people get mad at him, and they begin to threaten his life, and it's a really interesting setup there, and it leads to, at the very end, the last act, a big fight on this moon base. So it is pretty cool that that big showdown at the end. He kind of knows these people are coming. He tries to prepare, and he's sitting there waiting, and you know it's going to be something crazy, and he has to fight these people all over this big moon base. It's really nice. I love the ending. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the major foes. Not foes, what am I talking about? Some of the major pros with this movie. And one is I really do like what Sean Connery is doing here. It relates very much to things you see in real life. He's fighting for this class of worker, and these are these men that are doing really, really hard and dangerous work, and they don't complain, and people don't tend to care when these men get killed or injured. It's sort of like, yeah, that's just what happens to those people, and it's to the point where he tries to get, the gang together to save themselves, but these people are trained to know that they are supposed to be expendable, and to have that rattling around in someone's head is really messed up. But you see Sean Connery fighting for this group of people that no one cares about, and they're like, why would you stick your head out for this group of people when everyone else just thinks they're supposed to go off and die? And it's very noble, and you really do get behind him and his mission, and you see him sacrifice a lot for what he knows is right, even when no one else cares about it, which I do really like that. And also I should mention, you want to talk about the thing that got me interested in this movie at the beginning. This movie has phenomenal atmosphere. These men are working in this very grungy, run-down place. It really does feel a lot like something you'd see from the Alien universe. Really dark and gritty, and the repetitive paneling and grates. It's the lived-in future that, Star Wars really popularized, but you get to see, things like Alien giving us this grim and dirty future where it's lived in and people work here and they make messes, and you get to see that. And the thing is, a lot of them are horror movies, and you tend to want to get people by themselves for a horror movie. But with this movie, you actually have like 200-300, I think, people on this moon base. So there's a lot of people there. You actually get to see the living in the lived-in space, and you get to see seeing this, what the grunts of this universe are doing in a place with a ton of people, and it's just actually getting to see the life here was interesting, and you really did feel like these poor people, they weren't alone, because there's a couple hundred of them, but they were definitely out in the middle of nowhere. They're only getting, shipments once a week for necessary supplies, and you really feel isolated, even though it's not one of those movies with just 3 or 4 people. Now, I do want to say, though, for this movie, they show in the trailer, it says, man is still the greatest monster. And I really appreciate when trailers are trying to be honest with you. That's the one thing going into this, is it feels a lot like Alien, but there's no alien in this movie. There's no big monsters. There's no crazy robots or anything like that. It's a very human movie, and to be fair, part of me was like, oh man, I want a big monster, but I know that it's not what this movie's about, so just know that going into it, and also know this is, for part of it, a large part, detective conspiracy type movie. It's the plot actually you'd see in a lot of westerns, guy comes into town to defend some people, or even some, crime, cop movies where it's like, I got to save this town, and it's really weird to see that in an Alien movie, an Alien-styled movie, but it is interesting. It does give this movie a unique feel, but you gotta know you're expecting it. The first part of this movie goes kind of slowly, and, that is partially because, things aren't gonna heat up super quick. He has to dig in to find that, but you do get scenes like a lot of his detective work is probably closer to what real detective work is. He's sitting there on his computer doing a lot of the work, and there's things like, how do you find the drug dealers? Well, you watch the security cameras and look for people being shady, and he's there just looking at the people, and then he's trying to, find, hidden messages or something, and it's a lot of computer work, but that's probably how you do this in real life. But it does grow on you. You at first I'm like, okay, this is moving kind of slow, but then you get wrapped up in the mystery, and you actually are told kind of what's going on relatively early in this movie, but that leads you to go, okay, what's he going to do about it? And it does really pull you in. You get Sean Connery's character. You don't know what's really up with him. You know that a guy like him who's really serious, but he winds up on some backwater rock where, not too many people end up going. You're like, what led him to this point? And you see, like, his wife is really worried about him and the family, and she's upset that their kid has never been to Earth in his whole life, a human that's never been to Earth, and it's beginning to tear on her mind, and the family is stressed out. You also get this character that really grows on you. There's this doctor character, and she's kind of like, I'm a doctor at a far-out space station, what kind of person do you think I am? I'm not a great doctor. I get the job done. She's grumpy and complains, but even though she complains, you begin to see she's one of the few characters that actually cares about anything, and goes from this grumpy, complaining character to probably Sean Connery's only true, real friend there. And I love seeing a character that you think, okay, whatever, grumpy complainer, but then it really builds into a good, healthy relationship by the end. I thought that was really, really good. And of course, like I said, it's all building to that climactic action scene, which is really fun to get to see and explore the space station and find stuff out about it. There's all these cool little things with this station, and I really do love it. But anyway, that being said, I definitely recommend this if you're fans of the Alien aesthetic. Now, not the monsters from Alien, because there's no monsters in this, but if you like the worn-in, lived-in-space aesthetic, you definitely need to check this out. But that being said, if you want scares or over-the-top action, bear in mind that this is kind of a conspiracy movie at first, and, it's not going to be all that all the time, and it's really, more about one guy trying to save this town, and it does start off slow and build to something, but if you want non-stop constant action, that's not really what we're getting here. But it is a really good plot, and at first I was like, okay, no big monsters, I get that, and then I just kind of got sucked in, and I think this movie does that really well, but know what it is going in. It's a conspiracy leading to a showdown type movie, not like Alien in the monsters way. But anyway, overall, I did really enjoy this, and if that sounds like something you're interested in, know what it is, but it's pretty fun, and it really did pull me in, and I love this world and atmosphere, so major props for that. So I definitely recommend this if you want to see that aesthetic, or if the, sort of cowboy western idea, really hits you. If you like that type of movie, I definitely recommend it. But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around to the end. And to everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You're really helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist on the bottom here, probably my sci-fi playlist. So if you want to see more, you can click there. I do about 95% horror movies on here, so if that sounds like something you're interested in, I'd recommend sticking around for that. But I'm sure I've reviewed other movies you might like. But anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Sci-fi playlist at the bottom.